first off, let's talk about the passing of Richard Donner at the ripe old age of 91. Um, so many movies I grew up watching. I should say I came to be very familiar with Richard Donner's name because it kept popping up on so many movies that I loved growing up. Superman, The Goonies, Lethal Weapon. Yeah, he was a producer on The Lost Boys, The Omen, so many other films,
Mm.
and just such a prodigious career and a very long life. What were some of your all's favorite Richard Donner films? Let me start with you, CK. What were some of your favorite Richard Donner films?
Well, anyone that knows me, from the age of probably about 6, 7 years old, right? Video stores back around that time frame. You know, you would buy a VCR from a video store and you get free rentals for like a year or whatever, one free rental per year. The Goonies was the movie. So I bet each week it was the Goonies for a while until my mom let me rent like horror movies and stuff like that. So definitely the Goonies. We were talking about this the other night. The Toy is another Richard Donner movie that's probably not politically correct nowadays. But man, that is a great movie. I love that movie, and that's another one that I watched over and over and over again. But The Goonies, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. For sure.
Definitely.
Very cool.
What about you, Uncle Bill? What are some of your favorite Richard Donner films?
I've probably watched Lethal Weapon. I don't even know. Like every single time it's on television, like I'll watch it. And did he do Lethal Weapon 2? I think he did.
He did. Yeah.
Okay, so
He did them all.
So I like Lethal Weapon 2 as much as I like Lethal Weapon, just because it's awful in a great way. It just, I don't know, there's something about that movie, you know, diplomatic immunity. It's like, it's just, that whole thing is awful but great. So I would say any of the Lethal Weapon movies, like, would be my favorites. And like he said, like, you know, I watched The Toy a million times when I was a kid. Like, I know that's not something that anybody would probably want to admit to now, but like you don't understand any of that stuff. You just understand like Wonder Wheel and like that whole thing about, you know, being able to get anything.
Wonder Wheel.
Yeah, you can get anything that you want, and you know, as a kid, that's a great concept.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. What about you, Christian?
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at his filmography. He's the guy. I feel bad. I didn't realize he had done some of these greats. Like we talked about The Omen. Like we talked about, obviously, The Goonies. I'm a Lethal Weapon 2 guy. That's my favorite one. I'm just now seeing that he did a Stallone movie that I like. Him and Antonio. It's called Assassins, and I'm a big fan of that film. There's this great shot in the opening of that movie where Stallone has a guy like in the swamp, and he's going to kill the guy because he's an assassin, and it's like a really like emotional scene. And yeah, that's really cool. I didn't realize that was him, but I mean, he went the distance. 91 by today's standards. That's going the distance still. So God bless him. It's not his stuff is immortalized, so it's not like he's ever really going to die.
Right.
So,
yeah. What about you, Stone? What were some of your favorite Richard Donner films?
I grew up watching Richard Donner's movies. I mean, Superman I saw a billion times as a kid. That entire series I watched religiously. You know, Lady Hawk, a film that he made with Matthew Broderick in 1985. The Goonies, like you said, The Lethal Weapons, A Scrooge. You know, all those movies I grew up with. But just real quick, I want to touch upon that, you know, in the 60s before The Omen, he had directed a lot of television. You know, I was going through his filmography, and I'm looking at all these titles: Gilligan's Island, Perry Mason, Get Smart, The Fugitive, The Banana Splits Adventure Hour, Kojak, Cannon. But I want to, just real quick, and I'll be finished, is address 2 episodes, which I highly encourage anybody to check out. There was an anthology series in the 60s called Route 66 about these 2 guys just traveling on Route 66 and about their experiences along the way. He directed an episode of that called A Bridge Across 5 Days, which is excellent. But the real one, which I had completely forgotten until I rewatched it, he did 6 Twilight Zone episodes, and one of the ones that he did is one of the most famous, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with William Shatner, where he's up in a plane. He had a mental breakdown in an airport rather recently, and he's flying again with his wife. He sees a gremlin on one of the wings of the plane, messing with the wing and getting in there and everything, and that was remade for the movie. Check out those episodes. I mean, very long, distinguished career. I mean, he was one of my favorite directors, and I was happy to watch all 4 Lethal Weapon movies again, because those are 3 is okay, but they're all fun. They're all fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about Scrooged. He directed so much. I mean, how you know?
Yeah.
I loved Scrooge. Yeah, Scrooge.
He did a little bit from each genre too. Really, he didn't stick to just one genre. It's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your favorite Richard Donner films, Susan?
Oh, definitely the Goonies, obviously, and Scrooged. I would say that's probably my second most watched movie of his. And then my dad really loved the Lethal Weapon series, so the franchise, I should say. And so all the Lethal Weapon movies, like I have such good memories of, rewatching those with my dad and everything. So, I mean, really, I mean, just like you said, all of his movies are, I mean, Superman, I mean, those to me were like really, I don't know, very cool. So everything, I think didn't he do The Omen too or something? I think he did The Omen.
Yes, he did.
I mean, just so many classics. So, I mean, you honestly, like, you can't go wrong. And then to find out that he did like one of my favorite episodes of Twilight Zone too, I mean, come on. That's amazing. I've watched that episode so many times.
Yeah. He was also an executive producer on Tales from the Crypt. So I just saw his name on everything growing up.
He was busy. He was very busy.
He's a busy man. Yeah, very busy man.
Something we were talking about on the show the last time we were talking about him. It's odd to me that he directed all of those different like blockbuster films and all those different genres, but he's not a guy to where if you just walked up to somebody like and said, do you know like who Richard Donner is or his films? Like most people wouldn't know, like a Spielberg or a George Lucas or something. Like if you just walked up and said, you know who Steven Spielberg is? Like pretty much 99% of people are going to. But for some reason, Donner just didn't become like a household name like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And I wonder, I mean, I don't know, were his hits not big enough, or was he just not the kind of guy who was on the talk show circuit, or... I don't know.
I think it had to have something that you couldn't pin down his style. Like with Spielberg or like Lucas, like they had like a specific, I don't know, like theme or narrative or style that you could be like, okay, that's a movie. Like, but he did so many different things that, which I kind of admire that more than the other guys, that you can't really pin down what it was, like what his style was.
Yeah, exactly. And any director who can, give you a horror classic and a comedy classic and an action movie classic and all these genres. I mean, that's pretty remarkable,
Mm-hmm.
So
might have been the way to go that nobody knew who he was. He could go to the grocery if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He could go to the grocery store and then drive back to the Lethal Weapon 3 set and
get the best of both worlds.
He could leave his mansion and go to Waffle House at 2 a.m.
There you go. But definitely R.I.P. Richard Donner, gone but never forgotten, and just influenced so many people. And again, his name was on like every movie I loved growing up. So
everyone,
incredible, yeah. So.
Subscribe to the Region Free YouTube channel and also check out the Patreon to get exclusive content and become a Regionaire.